and Ms. Shriver, Ms. Schofield, their whole team have kept this really under wraps. They haven't even told me a whole lot about it, so I'm kind of out there on the limb a little bit. I know it's innovative. I know it's a lot more user-friendly than what we've had. I know it brings a cost saving to the district. And I know that they've talked to a lot of you guys about what you want to see in it. I see a lot of these digital Trailblazer shirts out here this morning. You guys are really leading the way. When I go all over the state and I talk to people in other districts about what they're doing, and we talk about what's going right and what their challenges are, I've always said if everybody pushed all their challenges and issues from anywhere in the state of Florida in the middle of a round table and I could take any of their issues or my issues, I'd pull back Clay County's few little challenges and come home with a smile on my face every time, and I do. So this is going to be just a tremendous accent extension of what we're already doing. When I go in and out of our schools, I see where our kids are. I look at people like Kathy Schofield that write the grants. I mean, we would have probably gone bankrupt in Clay County, honestly, literally. When I became superintendent and I asked to see the back of the checkbook for the balance, I mean, it was barely over 1% in savings of our $312 million reoccurring operating budget every year. So that instructional division, the people that you're going to see before you that have written these grants, that have gone out and allowed us to get these devices and invest in this new technology, literally the amount that they have brought us in just in grants alone exceeds the amount we have in reserves, which tells me I'm just a BC plus sometimes in math, but we would have been broke because the amount they brought in exceeds what we even have in the bank. So I'm super appreciative of what they have done. I'm happy to be here with you this morning. I'm not going to take up any more of your time, but I'm thrilled with where this is going to take us, and I'm excited to sit down and learn about it with you this morning. Now, where did Miss Schofield go? Here you go.
So good morning and welcome, and I think I probably know everybody, but I'm Kathy Schofield, and I'm the coordinator for curriculum in the district, and I've also done a lot of work with digital learning and STEM. But it's not about me or us today. It's about you and the OneClay Experience. Right. And this grant-funded program, the Digital Trailblazers, is really the wind beneath the wings of helping us move to a digital classroom and a digital learning environment. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to join us this morning for this event. We know that there's so much going on at your schools right now, and it's a crazy time of year. I also want to thank the superintendent, Diane Cornegie, Carl Hendricks, and the rest of our administrative staff and digital team, and especially thank you for empowering this group to look for a solution that would meet the needs of our teachers and students as we move forward. A few months ago, our team was put together and tasked with creating a solution for teachers and students that would allow them to have one place to access all of the things that they need as we move towards this digital classroom and digital content. The solution needed to provide not only information that kids need, like their schedules and their grades, but we also needed to allow them to have timely and easy access to all of their digital resources and textbooks, and bring them into the 21st century with some of the collaborative tools that are available. So our team, which was made up of Dwayne Weeks, Sabrina Thomas, Linda Shriver, Lisa Lining, and John Mesco, we began working together to design what you're going to see today. And you'll notice that we worked across the departments. We had instructional involved, instructional resources, curriculum, professional development, and information services, all coming together to bring those different perspectives together. And we hope that in what you see today, you'll see how the technology pieces and the technical things support the needs of the classroom and the teachers. So today, we're presenting to you what we did from reflecting, sketching, collaborating, dreaming, and then building this. A while back, you got a survey about your thoughts on our current LMS, which was Blackboard, and we also surveyed you to see what you thought were the tools kids need. And we took all of that into consideration as we developed this solution. If you would please, as in any theater, take out your phone and silence it. And if you happen to have a QR code reader on your phone, if you open your Playbill and see the squiggly box of a QR code, you can go ahead and scan that, and that will take you to our back channel for today. That would be a place where you can comment and ask questions as we go through the experience today, and we hope to be able to answer your questions at the end. I'd like to now turn things over to Linda Shriver, who will lead us into the previews and Act 1.
As in every good movie, we have previews, and these previews are amazing, let me just tell you. So sit back, relax, and let's watch the previews. Fun, huh? I'm telling you, if you're a geek like I am, that's iMovie. Probably most of you guys remember that and know that. And there's the last thing we do today is a scary movie trailer, so it'll be fun. I thought we'd have fun on Friday. So I want to take a bit of time here to tell you kind of from the teacher point of view. Here's how exciting this is. Yes, it was multi-departmental. We have lots and lots of different voices in the room. When we talked about this, certainly your voice was well attended and was there, but it was interdepartmental, and Kathy showed that by introducing everybody. But the other thing that was unique is there were a lot of teacher voices there. All of us were teachers or are teachers in some way, so we've all done the instructional thing and kind of had that heart. So for the first time, I think in Clay County, we've kind of built this beautiful thing. But these 5 common teacher challenges. Tell me if there's a soul in this room that doesn't have these, or we've kind of identified these 5 for you, and you'll start seeing them reoccur throughout the morning. The 5 being time management issues. We all deal with that, but certainly teachers, educators. Finding proper resources. We have resources out there for everything. You Google it, and man, you can use it without being vetted. So there's some concerns and questions, and we want to make sure we're doing the right thing there. Meeting the digital demands. The kiddos coming in smarter than we are. Craftier, more clever in some ways. Reaching students, reaching those kiddos with this fast-paced kind of MTV environment, going quick and meeting and keeping up with them. and then communicating with parents. We hope by the end of the day, you'll see this one environment. And that's really what we called it. I think the poster says it perfectly. One place, one space, one environment. It's kind of a one-to-one. I've heard it beautifully put by Carl. A one-to-one experience. And you'll get posters that go out to your school. It really is. Yeah, we're not giving everybody a device, but you have this one-to-one experience. You sign in, it's your stuff, and you'll see. I'm going to be quiet now. But those 5, can you tell I'm kind of excited about it? Those 5 challenges will be addressed throughout the day.
All right, so I want to welcome everybody to this, like I said, this OneClay Experience, and we're really excited about what we're going to show you. And for you digital trailblazers, we've even added a couple of things, so it's not exactly the same thing as you've seen. But really the vision here was, to be honest with you, we would see this need, this desire for kids to be able to do a lot of things, like simple things, like to be able to exchange digitally an assignment between a parent and a teacher and a student and make that as easy as possible. And when we designed the portal, one of the things that we wanted to do is we wanted to really get in there and go, how can we make things easier? How can we make things better? And good technology, we've always sort of made the argument, is transparent. That the emphasis isn't on the technology, that it's actually on what's going on, the processes behind it. And so to go ahead and start, what I'd like to do, as soon as my computer adjusts, is that I will actually bring up what and I'll resize it slightly, what the student portal will look like. And I want to talk a little bit about the development of this, because one of the things that we were very, very interested in making sure we had available to us is a portal that would actually accommodate up to 35,000 students. And in fact, from the Digital Trailblazers, if you've been to the earlier meeting where we kind of sort of gave the sneak preview of it, it's actually changed a little bit because we actually changed the technology that's the portal that binds it all together. And the reason for that is that we, as of right now, could actually have 35,000 students log in today. We're not going to do that, for the record. But with that said, we've already built that capacity, and we felt like that was going to be very, very important. And so we're really excited. We've got a very, very good partner in a company known as ClassLink, and that seems to be progressing quite well. What I'd like to do is that I'd like to point out a couple of things that we thought were real essential for students. One of the number one things we heard about the past LMS, the past learning management system, is that it was hard for people to find stuff. And that was not just the students. A lot of times that was the teachers, the people who were facilitating a course. And so we opted for a very, very clean look. And as you can see right here, it's basically like a lot of clean looks look these days. It's a bunch of big buttons, and the kids will log in with their network accounts. I will say this, is that we actually sort of see this as being the dominant way when a kid gets to a computer. This is where the kid is going to want to go. In fact, to be honest with you, if we have our way, it may be where the kid has to go. And the reason for that is that this is basically their digital toolbox, and there's a lot in here. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. One of the things that we're going to take a look at real quick is My Resources. Now, if you've ever asked the question, and I think we've all done this at some particular point, hey, I have this piece of software, and I'm not sure if it's allowed, and I'm not sure if the curriculum is up to date or the content is up to date. I'm not sure if it'll technically work. The thing that has happened in educational software over the last couple of years is that it's all moved to being web-based. And this is going to become our repository for accepted digital applications or web-based applications. And so as a kid logs in, they will see My Resources. That's all fine, but we also had another challenge, and a bigger challenge, to be honest with you, is that I think like tomorrow or something like that, we're supposed to deliver every textbook digitally. That's a huge, huge undertaking. And in fact, this year, we've actually got the first adoption that is going to be digital only, which is the Spanish adoption, subject that I barely passed in college. But nonetheless, still, we decided to pick something that we thought would be a good testing ground. And we're actually going to deliver that textbook this year digitally. But if you've ever dealt with textbook software companies, you'll see a couple of key people represented there. You'll see Algebra Nation and then the almighty Pearson and everything like that. But the trick with that is that those companies don't always play well together. And even though we try to throw our weight around, they'll look at us and they'll go, yeah, that's 35,000 kids, but there's Miami-Dade, so what they want. Or something like that. So actually getting those folks to play together in a way that we were going to be able to digitally deliver this content to students was kind of tricky. But you'll notice that we have, and this is something that's very, very key throughout the portal, is that a lot of times I firmly believe that if we have applications where the kid has to have a login over here or a login over here, that it all gets lost very, very quickly. And so there are a couple of ways that we're actually going to defeat that in the student portal. One of the ways is going to be that we're building single sign-on integrations. Part of the reason why we looked really, really hard at ClassLink, to be honest with you, is that in ClassLink, they actually gave us the ability to build those single sign-on integrations with some of the big players. But we had to go a little bit further. And to go a little bit further, what we built is basically a clever way in Focus to be able to assign textbooks in mass. And it looks a little different than it did, but basically what we were able to do is we were able to pull from the schedule in Focus, hey kid, you're in this class. This class has this textbook assigned, still giving folks free will, meaning that if for some reason you had that one off, you could still actually go into the schedule record and assign another textbook. But with that said, with one click, the kid will be able to go and get their digital device or their digital textbook with a single sign-on solution. In fact, to be honest with you, we were kind of sort of excited because ClassLink took what we had sent to them as far as specs, and they were like, at first we had a call with them, it was a little tough. They were like, I don't know. A couple of days later, they were like, yeah, we can do it, and they did it. And then a couple of days later, they're like, yeah, we took it and we showed it to Pearson, which is cool because I want my cut when it's all said and done. And I know Pearson has money to spare. But nonetheless, basically the idea is going to be that they're going to be able to go in and single sign-on to that text. I will say this too. One of the things that we were really, really going to work on in the next little bit, I think this is something to kind of sort of note. The state has been putting this digital demand that you're going to deliver these textbooks digitally for a long time, but realistically, they really haven't given us the tools to do it. They always kind of sort of deferred it back to the fact that it's like a local decision. However, I will say this is a multi-year project. In fact, I think that's one thing to talk about this. This is not one of those projects that just sort of happens like a day or so. It's like a lot of the projects that we tried to launch lately. It's overarching. It goes on and on and on. And this is actually what we see as a long-term project. I will say this. Every textbook will not be available day one. It's going to take a while to actually engineer those. But for the most part, we're going to go ahead and start in earnest next year with ClassLink as being part of that. All right. So real quick right now, I think one of the things that we wanted to do is that I'm going to turn it back over to Linda for just a quick second.
So we're going to talk it up. Here's what you're going to do. I really do want you to talk with your schools and connect up. Teachers lead the discussion. How's that one? Let's talk this one up. Dwayne just showed you the entrance into the portal, the face of the portal, the clean look of that portal. He also showed you a few of the resources and the connection. Here's the question. Talk it up in your school for just a minute or two. Those of you on the edge, connect up with schools. Discuss how the OneClay experience, or what you saw, just that brief little bit, will help alleviate that finding proper resources. That was one of the 5 that we had at the beginning of the thing. So discuss for just a few minutes. Turn and talk.
So
Really good.
This is the hard part, I know, is pulling you guys away. But this is what I heard, and you tell me if you heard some other things that I'm not mentioning. Will it work on any device? Yes. These are also questions you can put into back channeling as well, because we're not going to spend a whole lot of time with this. But I want to make sure. I did hear a lot of chitter chatter. Is every student's going to be from virtual to blended to all kinds of kiddos? Yes, all that will be available there. We're going to stop and continue on, but I just wanted to...
Okay, so the next part of the OneClay student experience that we're going to take a look at is something that I think is going to be really fundamentally, I think it's just going to fundamentally shift a lot of instruction, which is the Google Tool Suite. And so Google Docs, if you've ever used those before, is a way to kind of sort of take away Word, whereas there's a lot of strengths to that. I think the Word, the PowerPoint, even if some people veer into the Excel project, has been kind of a standard of projects for like almost, to be honest with you, ever. The truth of the matter is that a lot of those tools aren't particularly collaborative. And so one of the things that we've been looking at over the last little bit is the whole world seems to kind of sort of be going towards the Google standard to some extent. We started taking a look at what would be best for our students in terms of instruction as far as giving them those 21st century skills to be able to say, hey, it's not just enough for you to be good at working by yourself on a project. You've got to be able to collaborate with other team members, because if you think about it, that really represents what we model and what we do at the school level. And to have kind of sort of a common platform for that in the student portal, one of the things that's already available is that when you click on My Tools and then My Docs, what will happen is that it will go ahead, log the student in, and they will have access to their documents. If you are unfamiliar with the Google Documents, now I will tell you this, that represents a very massive shift. I think one thing that's neat too is that the kid will be able to, and I think this is something that's very, very important, is that there are times where honestly the student may not have access to Office at home. Even though they may have a computer that's hooked up to the internet, Office can be fairly expensive. And this is a way for them to be able to log into their portal from home, because that portal is going to be available 24/7, 365. And as you will notice, actually Sabrina is actually logged into the document that I'm in right this second. If you've never seen sort of the magic of Google Docs, you can actually see where she's typing as we go. And I think the thing that's really, really remarkable about that is that how cool is it that you could have a group project that is a digital group project where everybody is working on the same document. And I can tell you, out in industry, that's a real skill that we owe teaching our kids at this particular point. So the Google Docs, very, very excited about that. And of course, they will actually have, I'll let Sabrina finish my homework for me. But we have basically the same things you would expect, the Google equivalent of Word, Excel, and then PowerPoint. And so I think especially you start thinking about that, there's a lot of really, really neat things that we're going to be able to do with those tools. Now, probably one of the next pieces too that I think is going to be very, very important is that we're constantly preaching, and we preach it down to pretty low grades. It's time management. And so one of the things is that we've always kidded, and I say this joke every time, so whatever. But every application we buy has a calendar, but our goal is for this to be the calendar. If you think about what a Google Calendar can do that a lot of these other applications and their calendars cannot do, is it can actually push those notifications to the kids. Whereas a lot of the kids, it seems like to me, every time I go into a school, almost the vast majority of kids actually have some kind of digital device. It makes sense to give them that 21st century tool to where, hey, this is due this day. Those reminders, those things that we lean on to be able to kind of sort of organize our day. And again, I think we're actually teaching real world skills. The thing that's going to be very, very exciting about that is as teachers get their own Google Calendar, then what you actually have here is that you have the ability for teachers to have a calendar out there for a class, and for a kid to be able to lay that calendar on top of their own personal calendar, basically giving you kind of sort of that digital calendar. And again, those due dates and all that other type of things that you would want to be reminded of, they'll be there for you. And so I think that's actually a huge part of this. When you talk about the time management, I think this is going to be a giant benefit for our students. Now at this point, I think I'm supposed to turn it back.
This will save and help from admin to teacher, from teacher to teacher, adult to adult in these time management skills. Because if you haven't caught on, this is also available for you as well. All these pieces in this portal piece. So there's some exciting things, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But do discuss very quickly in your groups, in your circles, time management, how that challenge will be faced and taken care of maybe with some of the things that Dwayne just talked about. Talk it out. That's fine. Great job. Oh my God, what I heard was cool. So here's some of the things that I overheard. And for this one, we'll open it up a bit too. Up front here, we got to talking about the calendar piece, and the calendar piece kind of being very different from the calendar piece that we have here, from color coding options as a teacher, putting your classes in, sharing from a junior high or high school with all the, well, from any school, but with all the crazy sports and calendars that you share, the ability to book a room or book a spot. You can blend them together. So the time management piece, and someone said perfectly up here, you know, booking an event. You can actually book an event through a calendar too, and it goes to the calendar if approved or whatever. So there's some huge, what else did you find? Is there any other conversations that I'm missing? I'm hearing some really cool stuff out there. So time management, yes, sir.
Just in high school and junior high, when you have multiple teachers, you can overlay 6 calendars, and one student could look at all 6 teachers' calendars at the same time.
Huge. So if you all didn't hear that on mic, you can have an overlay of all 6 teachers. I can't imagine being a student and being able to see all my assignments, thank you, excellent one. Any others that I missed by not circulating back there? So another thing really quickly that we discovered last week, we knew it was there, but we played with it. It's the coolest thing in the whole wide world. In every event that you create in a calendar, you have a teeny tiny little link called Join Meeting. And if I can't get out to a school, but we have to connect somehow, or 2 teachers are on either side of the campus and they want to show each other something or work on something together, or a digital faculty meeting, a virtual faculty meeting, you can actually click on Join the Meeting, and everyone can be at their desks, and you either see a visual of them, or PowerPoint can be pushed out that way, and you can discuss and share that way in a live meeting, just by a link inside a calendar. I'll be quiet, but can you tell I'm kind of a Google girl? I will never work for them, but I would absolutely live to work for them. But just because it's such a cool environment. But there's some amazing collaborative pieces that Google is putting out. Thank you. Were you YouTubing while I was talking?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. I got caught. I forgot I was on the projector, I guess. So, you're lucky I didn't go shopping. All right, so the next piece is going to be probably one of the larger parts, which is that if we go back to the portal here for a quick second, one of the things that I kind of want to show off here is the fact that the student portal up into this point has done a lot of good, I think, for a lot of our folks. And what I mean by that is that our students have been able to go on there, they've been able to monitor their progress, and I think the parent portal has done a lot as far as that student accountability piece and making sure the parents are looped in. But one of the things that we were thinking whenever we designed the system, and I think this is a super key point, to be honest with you, is that we did not want a training curve that blew people's minds. So right now, we've clicked on big buttons to get to places that we need to get. And to be honest with you, so much of the learning curve out there is kind of sort of made a little bit more shallow whenever people are used to Gmail, people are used to Google Calendars, and Google Docs, if you've used Word, is very easy to use. However, the part that we were really working on engineering and making easy for teachers, and here's the thing, we want teachers to do more, but at the same time, we actually want it to be easier for them to do it than it is what they're doing now. And I know that sounds like kind of an ambitious statement, but our goal in this was to build this part of the system out to where the teachers really didn't have terribly much work. In fact, it would speed up some of the things that they were doing. So what I'm going to do real fast is that I'm going to toggle. This can be a little bit weird for a second, but I'll try to be clear on it. I'm going to toggle between a student, which is, this is our student, and our teacher here. And so the student, in case you haven't got the joke that we told last time, is Lancelot. I didn't come up with that. That was somebody else's fault. But, but basically, he has a teacher. And so again, one of the first things that we wanted to do is that we wanted to make sure that this was super easy for the teacher. And so Lancelot happens to be in 5th period language arts. And so we're going to go to the grade book of the teacher, which really doesn't look terribly much different than the grade book for the teacher does now. And this was a super key step. And so what we wanted is the ability to make where the thing that we kept hearing over and over again that people wanted to use other systems for was, how do I get a kid a digital assignment? And then how do I collect the digital assignment? And how do I do that in a way where it all meshes very well with the grade book? And so we listened to that, and the thing that we came up with Focus is this. Whenever a teacher clicks on, and they do it quite a bit, whenever they click on Add an Assignment, we wanted to be able to actually use that as the frame. And so, for example, if I was going to give let's say a reading or a writing assignment. I'll call it Grease, since that seems to be the theme we're going with. Writing assignment. And it's going to be worth 100 points. And you'll notice here that I actually got the ability to make it do not just the date, but I can actually make it do the time. We thought that was also going to be important if you're digitally delivering assignments, because you may have a cutoff of 4 o'clock or the end of the school day or something like that. So you can actually enforce that cutoff time. And we wanted that to be really easy. So to push this assignment out to a student, I've got this, you can barely see it, this heroism in Greek literature assignment. I just drag and drop it into the grade book. And then what happens is that will actually push it to where the student can view that assignment on their portal. So realistically, those assignments, the great thing about that is that now you don't have to actually go in and re-engineer all your documents or anything like that. It's drag and drop. In fact, it's fairly clever. There are a couple of file restrictions, but you can actually drag and drop any file in there that you would want. So potentially we were going through some of the scenarios. It could be all kinds of things. You could drag and drop a PowerPoint in there. You're not limited to just a Word document or a PDF. There's all kinds of things. And the hope is that, and this is what's really cool, is that we're using Google Documents because the teacher portal, and I think this is going to be a very, very important thing for us to emphasize, is going to look exactly almost like the student portal. So you would have access, and the Google Docs very well may become, for the kids, we're hoping so. For y'all, I think some of y'all will probably stop using Word and start using the Google Docs because of the collaboration piece. The hope is that that's where we're generating the content. That's where we're generating these things, and then drag and drop in. It's a small button, and I apologize because the way the screen is, it's a little hard to see. But with one click, a teacher can actually go in there and allow student uploads. So what we've just done with dragging and dropping in one click is we've now initiated the digital exchange of assignments via the student portal. Honestly, that's huge, and it's easy. And the great thing about that is that now, if I'm a teacher, I can collect that work digitally. It's super easy on the kid side. We'll take a look at that in a second. One of the things that was unbelievably difficult, oh, even there's a nice button if you want to be punitive that says do not allow late submissions. But something else that was very, very difficult, because sometimes you have a scenario where the kids may be working through the content at their own pace. And one of the things that was unbelievably difficult in some systems was something known as adaptive release, meaning I needed to finish this before I went on to the next thing. And so what we have here is that it's basically a sort order. That drop down basically has a list of all your assignments. And it says you must complete or earn a certain score on this assignment before you get this assignment. So as the kid is working through it, there's a part where they can actually work through it at their own pace, meaning that they just complete this and they get the next assignment dropped, whereas the kid sitting next to them may be a couple of assignments back. So that seemed to be fairly easy. The good thing too is that the Focus Gradebook actually carries from year to year. So once those assignments are loaded, you have the option to copy those assignments over en masse from the previous year into the new year. So next year will be a setup year to some extent, but for some folks, if they want to keep some of those assignments, they copy, I like this one, I like this one, I like this one. When we get here, we get at the beginning of the school, not this year, but the year after, you can copy a lot of those assignments and have them at the ready. And of course, it's all pending on the due date. The kid doesn't actually see it until the assigned and the due date hits. So realistically, those kind of control that. So we were pretty excited to think that that was going to be an easy way for us to be able to do that. From the student standpoint, represented here in red, you'll notice that the portal does something that it doesn't do now, which is it actually prompts you which assignments are upcoming. And so it's giving you kind of sort of a little bit of a heads up. And you'll notice one of them has a hyperlink. And when I click on that, it will give me the option to go in there and download the assignment. So from the student standpoint, the training curve is really easy. It's giving you prompts or alerts letting you know, hey, you've got an assignment that's due. Do you want to download it? Or you can go into the progress report view and then just download any assignment that's been made available. Now here's the really cool part. For a kid to upload that assignment, they're basically going to click on edit and upload and then just drag and drop the file or files in there. And what we can't wait to see is we can't wait to see some of the creativity that will take place. One of the things that we're envisioning is that there are certain labs, of course, language labs with the Spanish adoption. We're looking at that first, obviously. One thing that we presented as a possibility is that it will be possible to make a recording in Spanish and submit that as a response, which, if you think about that, is a much neater way. And of course, the great part, the last great part, there's a lot of great parts, I guess, is that from the teacher standpoint, once the assignment has been dragged and dropped, when we go into the grade book, we get a little bit for writing exercise 1 right here. I will see the assignment when I click on it. And then when I click on it, what will happen is the assignment will actually come up. Now, if they generated it in doc, honestly, so far, we haven't really found a format it doesn't play well with. I mean, I'm sure you could get exotic if you break out WordPerfect 5.1 or something like that. I can actually show you the office where that still lives, because I was there 2 days ago. But nonetheless, what I was going to say is that whether it's in Google Docs, downloaded, whether it's a PDF, whether it's a Word document, I mean, it seems to grab a hold of every document we've thrown at. Grabs a hold of PowerPoint presentations, too. And for the teacher, what's neat about it is that you can go in there and to make a comment, you basically can just go here and say, I'm going to make a comment here. You'll notice it actually logs me as the teacher. If it's a co-sharing teacher situation, you can actually have 2 teachers working on the same paper, and then you just type the comment. How about this is good. I put a score up here, I hit submit, and it goes into the grade book. The second I hit submit, it goes back to the student, so you've electronically passed the paper back to the student, and it posts to the parent portal, which is huge because the thing about it is that now you can actually electronically exchange it all the way to the parent, which is not, I think, a small thing. In this age where we're trying to constantly communicate the kids' progress together, that's a lot of work. And honestly, if we could take advantage of some of the electronic workflow there, I think that's a big deal. All right? So that kind of handles that piece. The good news is, too, I think the training curve on this is super shallow. Really, if you look at what the teacher was required to do, there was about 2 steps to actually create the assignment and then figure out how to make the marks and then enter the grades, and you're good. Something known as add a test. Because on one hand, we want to be able to digitally deliver the assignments. And I think, and I've said this over and over again, I think the test piece is a little misleading. Because what I think about the test piece is we're actually trying to digitally deliver some type of maybe quiz, maybe a worksheet, whatever. And the goal for this was to be super easy. Now, these are not district level tests or any of that type stuff. We didn't opt for that. These are tests for you to be able to deliver to your students. And again, maybe it's a worksheet, maybe it's whatever. The first thing that we know is that we know a lot of teachers already have existing resources out there, meaning you've already written the test. It's sitting there in Word, and you've been used to giving it, and we don't necessarily want to have to rekey all that or do all that. So the thing that is built into Focus, or at least this with this Focus enhancement, is that if you click on Answer Key Only Test, it'll ask you to drag and drop again. So for example, if I had a test that was in a Word document like this, and I saved it as a PDF, it doesn't need to be a PDF in this case, I can drag and drop it in there. And if you notice on this quiz, there were 8 questions, and it looked like it was a multiple choice quiz where it was A through D. And so to create the test, I can key it very quickly. I can say there's going to be 8 questions. It's A through D. And I can actually go in and say number 1 is A or B, 2 is B, 3 is B, 4 is, wait for it, B, so on and so forth. And on the right-hand side, I can name the test. I'm going to go in and specify the window where the kid can take the test. I can actually create a login pin, so I can actually assign that login pin at a particular time. and I can copy it to every single class. And they have something that I don't really want to talk about right now because today was supposed to be the last day of assessment. They gave us an extension, which seems nice, but to me feels a little cruel at this point. We've got 2 more days of it. We're almost done. That's why we had this today almost. It's like this would be the last day, and we could go, let's do something else, anything else. But with that said, there's a secure browser there, so you could actually administer the test to make sure that the student is not Googling the answers in the background, because that's a thing. And creating that test, because we're using existing documents, is very quick. So you'll notice I have a test here on Greek architecture. And so when I try to take that test as a student, not using the secure browser here, it will take my PDF and basically give me a virtual Scantron to the right of the test where I can go in. And again, the learning curve on that is unbelievably shallow, and you're probably talking about 2 to 3 minutes to take an existing document, if it's a multiple choice test, and run with it and deliver it online. And again, I think this has a lot of use, like worksheets and other things that you have, but super easy to administer. I shouldn't have jumped out of it. I know this will be a bit jarring, but if I go back to the teacher for a second in the grade book, so my kids have taken the test, and I know because it's got this little T sitting there. When I go in, unfortunately, I keep failing this test. You'd think I'd pass it at some point. But basically what it will do is that when I click on the test in the grade book, it will pull up the students' responses. And in that middle column there, the teacher will have the ability to actually overwrite the responses should there be a bad question or something that was interpretable. So realistically, you're talking about automatically grading that type of assignment, and it's merged right into the grade book. There is no double entry or anything like that. Now, that's as easy as it is to deploy that test. I'll say this, it's not quite enough. And so one of the things, too, that ExamView was nice enough to do is ExamView, at some particular point, was nice enough to push out their files in a Blackboard-friendly format. And I guess Focus at some point was nice enough to steal Blackboard's format. And so what happens is that you can actually create, you may even have some existing files. You can create an ExamView test. And we know ExamView comes with almost every piece of software that we buy. You can create an ExamView test. You can drag and drop the files over there, put the details of the test of like when it's due. It will go in the grade book. And it does this with, honestly, kind of a shocking accuracy, to be honest with you. We gave it some hard things as far as like biology exams that actually had like all kinds of like crazy diagrams and stuff like that. It brought all of that over without any problem. And now you can take those ExamView tests that you might create or think that would be better for creating that content and actually port them straight into the gradebook for teacher and student use in a matter of minutes. So again, it's just going to be as simple as dragging and dropping those files over after you've created them in ExamView. So we're real happy about that. But at some point, somebody's going to want to create a test that's not necessarily canned. And so one thing about the test, one thing that happens whenever we were going to go through the implementation, and I'll say this, we've already set it up, we've already set a development site up. There's actually a site, if you're lucky enough to find the URL, where your classes are already loaded and it's already operational. I was in it today. I'm not going to tell you yet. And to be honest with you, it's not linked to the student portal yet, but we did it for testing purposes. But one thing that's kind of important is that Focus, whenever they go through this initial implementation, they're going to take all of the Florida standards and they're going to go ahead and import them in and link them to classes. And I think the argument of most instructional folks would be that if you're giving a test, then one of those questions should be linked to the standards, although there is a little bit of free will to be able to ask a different kind of question. But if I'm authoring a test, the learning curve on this is a little steeper, but it's not too bad. The folks that we've shown have been able to figure it out. This is a language arts class, so over on the left you will actually see the English Florida standards. We'll get rid of all the other ones in actual production. You'll see 6th grade, which is what this teacher is teaching. And then you will see the different standards for that class as far as the strands. and then the individual standards. And what happens is that I can actually create questions. I can actually go in and create questions for the different standards. And if I just click on Add Question, it basically gives me this neat editor where I can go in and I can put all kinds of pictures, I can put characters, I can put all kinds of equation. It's got an equation editor in it. I can put all of that different type of things, all those different type of things, and I can write the question and tie that to the standard. The reason why this is going to be potentially huge is that as I'm going through, I can write my own test and deliver them digitally, and I can have all kinds of creative questions and all kinds of creative responses. In fact, the responses, because the last ones we saw were a little limiting. Let me do it again. Sorry. For the question type, I can do a multiple choice where I type in the right answer. And of course, I don't want them all to be A, so I just drag and drop them around. I can add more answers. I can do an extended response. The great thing is I can actually do hybrid tests that are going to be half multiple choice and half extended response. It will grade the multiple choice for me, and then it leaves me to review the extended response. So you don't have to necessarily lock into one type of test or the other. For you math folks out there, I can have a gridded response. If I can, oh, there's the audio response. I can have a gridded response. Lots of different options to take that. And again, it's delivered the same way that the other tests are, which is that I go to the student portal and I just click on it and it's there. So that will be pretty neat. Kind of keeping in the spirit of collaboration, one of the things that's going to be really cool is that we're going to have the ability to actually enable sharing of tests and questions. And so what will happen there is that as I go through and let's say I want to share this test that I create. So what's neat about this, if you think about it, is if you think of the process, is a group at a school could actually go in there and have a team of people writing questions or constructing a test. Meaning you could be in your Focus account and you create a question and you share it with the group. And then what will happen is that you can share the actual test. And sharing the test is pretty easy. You just pick somebody out of your school to share it with. And then that test becomes available in their grade book. So if you think about the process there, that's going to be pretty cool because, again, y'all can kind of sort of just, as a team, develop these tests, have tests potentially across departments, across teams, however, and really super easy. And it's all linked to the standards. I think one thing that we'll see is that once you go through the linking to the standards, it's an extra click. You just pick the standard it's linked to. But the amount of useful reports that come out of that, because then what you can start doing is instead of start taking your grade book apart by assignments or whatever you think they're getting, you're actually going to get reports that take it apart by the standard, which if you're trying to teach to that mastery is going to give you a much different view than the grade book currently does now. And again, just kind of an extra click there. All right. So on assessment, we kind of covered that. Now the last part of this, and the focus piece that we want to cover is that we have been wrangling with this question for a while, which is teacher web pages. So there are like thousands of different teacher web page solutions out there. And to be honest with you, this scares us a little bit because some teachers have their own domain. Like they do, and they own it. And that's cool as long as the teacher's happy. I don't know what happens when the teacher isn't happy anymore because we don't technically have like a legal hook into that. But one of the things that we think is real essential is that teachers need a digital space to be able to deliver. And I'll tell you this too. I think that's one of the things that may have frustrated people about the past LMS a little bit, is that some people would use it for that, but it was almost like there was too many options, too many things to do. Now, we like the options. We want to be able to deliver the content, but we want it to be very, very easy. And so the last part that I'm going to talk about as part of the focus component is under lesson planning, which is not really lesson planning. It's more along the lines of course pages. It takes probably about 5 minutes using this editor to create a class page. Now let's talk about how this class page works. It's not available to everybody in the world, and we're going to make the argument that that's good. simply because right now a lot of those pages face to the public, but the people that you're really trying to touch, the people that you are really trying to engage, are the parents a lot of times, right? This is viewable through the parent portal and through the student portal. So there's a little bit of a front gate there. And to actually create, now again, I keep saying it and I haven't updated it since then because we've been a little busy. I'm not the most creative person, to be honest with you. And I created this meeting. I created this in the middle of a 30-minute meeting or something like that. But basically, what happens is that the teacher goes in here, and for every period, they basically click on a button, and it will create the course page for them. Now, organizationally, they can create course pages, they can create unit pages, they can create lesson pages, they can drill down as much as they want. But for just the standard one-page course page, all that a teacher has to do is they name it, they basically put a date on it, and then down here, they actually just drag and drop. So if they want a label, they just drag and drop and start typing. And of course, just like this is kind of a little bit of a primitive word processor to some extent, but there are a lot of really cool things you can do. You can bring images in, and you can do all kinds of things with the fonts. As you can see right here, we kind of did that at the very, very top. But we wanted a little bit more. You'll notice that we're able to embed a YouTube video, basically just by putting the address and clicking on the little embed piece. And we'll take a look at that in a second. But that ability to very quickly, with just cut and paste, I just want it there, right? And then click embed. You're able to actually go in and bring in discussion forums. And the discussion forums can be graded. And the second you hit that checkbox where they're graded, it automatically goes to the grade book, where you're able to go in and read student responses right next to whenever it says that they've done the discussion board. You'll be able to click in there and then grade the responses right there. So again, super easy. You just drag and drop in it, describe the title, fill out the options. And if you wanted to go further, you could actually create a unit. And so let's take a look at what this looks like to the student. So the student now will have this option to click on the course, and they will see your course webpage. And like I said, I'm not very creative. But you can also have unit plans pushed out there, and then underneath that, you can actually have lessons. So again, there's a little bit of a scalability there to some extent, which is you can go as far as you'd like to go. If you just want that front course page to let everybody know what's going on, you can do that. But if you want to actually build out unit and lessons, and our goal was to, at some particular point, we have a wide variety of interests represented in this room. Some folks just want the one and done. Some folks want to be able to digitally deliver content almost completely, right? And so we've got that scalability, and it seems super easy. And the parent can see it. The parent can see it as well. All right. So I think that concludes the focus part of that. I do have a couple of other things I want to go ahead and show you in the portal. Every kid needs a digital locker at this particular point. And it's kind of funny because the H drives of old, by this time of year, we get about this close to filling them up and crashing the whole server. Because by this time of the year, it just builds up and builds up. And every year, we expand it a little bit. Every year, we still get this close because obviously the demand is there. And so the Google Drive will be implanted in there. And I think one of the things that's going to be valuable about that, some CTE teachers have done this in the past, but I think the thing that's valuable about that is this gives the kid, and of course it's managed by the district. It's not just a free-range Google account, but this allows the kid to be able to store their stuff. And the storage, Google has a much easier storage unit. I mean, really, if you look at the way Google does things, we're going to have plenty of room for almost, it seems like, ever. But the other thing that's good about it, too, is that they can actually go out and share other documents, keeping in mind with that collaboration piece. Now, the good news is for you teachers, they're going to be able to digitally deliver that straight to your grade book, right? But, again, if you've got that collaborative project, it's like, hey, well, let's work on this together or something like that or whatever. And I think it's really going to change instruction in that way because once you start imagining that piece, you kind of sort of take kids out of sometimes their individual silos into those projects where they're collaborating digitally. I'm going to share this with you. Let's work on it. And I think it's going to be neat to see that. The other part are Gmail accounts. So we're having a pretty vigorous debate that I won't say everything about quite yet. But realistically, Gmail is kind of becoming the standard. I mean, even if you look at people's personal accounts, that's been the case. For all the Google Docs stuff and everything, the students are going to have a Google account. And even though it doesn't necessarily have to, I will say this, I feel like we cheat our students if we do not give them the tools that they're going to be expected to have in the workforce. And I don't know anybody who goes into a workplace these days who doesn't, one of the first things that happens as they're going through pre-employment or whatever, gets issued an email account. And so right now the Gmail accounts are basically designed to be able to just message back and forth between you. I will say this, something that's kind of new. We have another way, and I guess that's going to be the fun part in the next little bit, is coming up with all the different ways. Focus will also, for more of those chat situations that are maybe a little outside of email, will now have a messenger, complete with something that was very essential to the project in its early design, emojis. It was on the spec sheet. But what this allows is that if you're digitally interacting with a student, and the great part about it is that there's an audit trail on every conversation that goes on. So it's not a situation to where it's kind of like a safe spot to be able to do the chat feature. But between Gmail and that chat feature, I think, to be honest with you, that communication between the teachers, we can kind of encourage that. And again, we should be encouraging them to do that digitally. That's super important. The last thing, as we had configured through Launchpad is everybody will have access to their local site, their school site, and then their district site, obviously, and that'll be pretty standard. And I think the most important thing is going to be that we need to make sure that the teacher experience, when you log into the portal, it's going to look almost exactly like this. You may have a few more tools in the My Tools, you may have a few more tools in the My Resources, but we're building a parallel world for the teachers that matches almost completely. So we're pretty excited about it. And the goal will be for this to roll out for the students at the beginning of the school year in 15-16. I think I just had a neck twitch. But for 15-16. And right now we're tracking on progress, so we expect that. Now, I think I'm supposed to turn it back over to Linda for a second.
You are. Can I teach you something? And I'm not kidding you when I tell you this. Learning Management System, LMS, which was our Blackboard, is so 90s. And I mean that with all my heart. What you've just seen is a OneClay experience, is a one-to-one experience. It's not an LMS. I mean that. This is not replacing Blackboard. This is so much deeper, so much more. You get it. Am I right? Right? So the three issues that I want you kind of to start getting your head around, and I could so tell you were dying to talk to each other. So when he was like introducing certain things, thinking of all the things that Dwayne just showed you, all the things that, all the little pieces from the portal piece, clicking off into the single sign-on into Google Docs, and then single sign-on into Focus, all of those pieces. Think about the last three issues that challenge us today. One being, did you take the thing out? You take the, meeting the digital demands of the kiddo in our own digital demands. Reaching students and reaching parents. So think about those last three challenges and how what we've kind of overall presented to you, talk it out in your group. The three parts that make up this piece, this OneClay, this experience, the three parts that we have to look at for training, and I'm going to turn it back over to someone else for training, but the three parts that we have to look at is the portal piece, that real pretty clean interface. We have to look at getting in my opinion, it's going to be very easy because it looks like an iPad. It operates with those, little guys, little icons, exactly. So that's the first piece that makes up that. There'll be some training certainly in that. The focus enhancements is what we're calling it, because truly the teachers are already inside Focus. That's why we really wanted your lead teachers here to share and discuss what's going on as far as focus and how they use it already. And then what I believe with all my heart is probably going to be the biggest learning curve is the Google pieces. And I mean that Google can be very easy, but it can also have lots because it can do so much. So those are the three main parts that make up this one experience. So keep those three in mind, and I'm going to turn it over to Dwayne.
I think this kicked in. So the training is absolutely essential for this project. And I will tell you this, is that we have not trained thousands of people since the gradebook conversion, which was a long time ago, and we probably put out of our minds at this particular point. However, there's a little bit of a wind to our back. And so if we look at this diagram for a second, the good news is actually logging into the student and staff portal is done with their network account. And to be honest with you, the training curve on that, I think, is very shallow. So we anticipate that to be not the hard part by any stretch. The focus enhancements, even though they're easy, they're new. And I think one of the things, too, is that we have to kind of sort of build an eternal training cycle when it comes to this type of thing. What I mean by that is we get new people all the time, new to our district, new to teaching. And so realistically, we need a wheel to be able to pick them up and get them going fairly quickly. The Google Apps, I would say this, is that this is a multi-year project. Now, the first part of this is going to get implemented very quickly. But I think that's something that's amazing, is every time you look, there's another Google app for education that may make a powerful impact in the classroom. And so realistically, what we've tried to build is, instead of just buying a piece of software, we've tried to build that platform to be able to push that stuff out. But the training, like I said, will be very, very key. So let's talk about the training plan, and something that I think is super different, honestly. What is the right number of hours to train the teachers on the gradebook? It depends, doesn't it? Like, you ran through that Rolodex in your mind where you're like, well, that one 30 minutes, that one 3.5 hours, and that one till Christmas break, and so on and so forth. I'm going to make the argument that in this particular project, because what we're shooting for is we have metrics. We listen to people on those surveys towards the end of Blackboard, and one of the things that we said, one of the things that actually kind of sort of, I don't know, sort of hurt a little bit more is it wasn't so much that people were saying bad things about it. There was a little bit, there was some of that. But a lot of people, we got a lot of NAs. And actually, that to me was the most powerful part of the statement, which is that it doesn't make a difference in what I'm doing, right? We want to be able to train to mastery, just like we're doing in the classroom, meaning that for some folks, that's going to be 30 minutes. For some folks, it's going to be 3 hours. For some folks, it's going to be an hour and a half, but they're going to forget 3 weeks from now. And so training the focus piece, we started to think about how could we deliver that, knowing that the Google part was going to be a little bit more long-term, involve a lot more face-to-face. But that beginning of the school year is tricky. There was a reason why, I say it all the time, we converted the gradebook in the middle of the year, because people are happier coming back from Christmas than they are coming back from summer vacation. And the crushing weight, honestly, of what goes on in pre-planning cannot be underestimated. You get back, and it's on. And so we started thinking about how could we deliver this the easiest way possible, knowing that if we're going to launch this in 15-16, we're going to start the school year with it. And so there is going to be some training. And so as we sit here towards the end of May, we're starting to tell you now how it's going to unfurl. We didn't want it to sneak up on somebody in pre-planning. So there will be training during pre-planning. I'll discuss that. There will be training videos for students and training videos for parents. But there's a part of this that I want to show. And actually, this piece is going to be very different than how we've trained in the past. So we've all done training videos. And to be honest with you, training videos are nothing new, and training videos are usually boring. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that a lot of the training videos that I see Not ours, of course. Ours are great. But like, but a lot of the training videos I see, it's like there's 25 minutes. And I don't know about you, I start on the couch, and then I'm distracted by any movie on Netflix or something else. And so I'm half listening while that's going on. There will be training videos that will be made available to the teacher from directly in the Focus portal. So what I'm saying there is for the teachers, they will log in and they will see a link to these Focus courses for I don't even say the LMS, but basically for the OneClay Experience. So all the Focus pieces, they'll log in and they'll be there. It will ask them to do something which hopefully they'll be able to do. If they can't do, they shouldn't be in the gradebook anyway, which is they're going to click to enroll. And when they click to enroll, what's going to happen is that it's going to take them to basically a site where they're going to see, here's the gradebook enhancements, and here's how to digitally deliver an assignment. And then they're going to watch the couple of videos, or not. But there's a practical that tests for mastery. And what I mean by that is that there's a short, what is known as an Adobe Captivate, that walks you through actually doing what the training videos are teaching you to do. Some people will actually go in and they go, I'm smart enough to figure this out. I don't need your training video. But you'll notice we actually have one up here, is that it says, select the file box, in this case, to select the file. And so, or select this. I got it correct. That's good. If I don't get it correct, I get instant feedback to try again. And it's testing to make sure that you can fulfill the processes, that you can actually do it, and it's keeping track. It's keeping track in a way that are available in district reports and for administrators. And so what happens is there's a quick report in Focus that you will go to that says Focus course completion, and it will give you a list of your faculty and every course that's there. In fact, there's even an option, which we're still weighing, we haven't determined, to not give the individual user the keys to the car till they learn how to drive. Because you've got to remember, a lot of this communication goes all the way down to the parent portal. So we want to make sure they're not uploading vacation pictures and thinking it's an assignment, or that they understand how the basic mechanisms of this work, because you're communicating with the parent. So that is going to be a huge piece. Now, because of the flavor of our project, and to be honest with you, because of the fact that they've done a little bit of an update, and we're actually looking at one of the newer versions, the training videos will be made available, and it will just be through basically logging into their portal, which does not expire over the summer. They will be available from Focus by June 15th. By June 15th. Now, do I expect teachers to stop what they're doing and take the videos? Yeah. Not going to happen, right? I mean, not going to happen. But here's the thing. There's always those high-speed folks that want to get in there earlier. They want to see it. They want to know how it works. I would say this. For the entire Focus component, my estimation for high-speed folks is they're going to skip the video and they're going to go ahead and go straight to the practicals. You know what? We don't care. If you can do it, that's what we care about. We're teaching to mastery, not how much time you spend staring at a screen while you're watching The Walking Dead. So in that case, what will happen is that there are some of those folks. But you know what? There's some of those folks that are going to need to watch the training videos a couple of times. And like I said, they're broken into 3-minute, 5-minute little sections. They're not long. And I think that's important to give them that resource, because our goal is to have as many people, like everybody, using this thing in whatever way they come up with that makes sense instructionally in their classroom. And how do we do that? We provide an eternal resource for training. What's great is next year when the new folks come in, right? There's always new folks. When the new folks come in, you've got a training path to set them on that doesn't require a ton of time. Now, with that said, in this training pattern, they're going to have to be open labs for the Focus component. And we've got a plan for that. And we'll be working through that in the next little bit. And some of the digital trailblazers will be involved, and they'll hear more about that in the summer. But we're going to have site-based open labs to help people. But we anticipate that first part of the project, that first piece of the student portal. And actually, we're working with, in fact, they seem very into it, we're working on, I know somebody who recently got admitted to college, and they basically had to go through an orientation. They had to go through one of those videos before they could get the hold removed from their registration. And it started me thinking, we should teach the kids how to use the portal the same way. Meaning the first time they log into the portal, we should come up with some kind of mechanism to do the same thing. And to be able to do it in a way where we're actually monitoring, hey, you've done it. Because here's the thing, like if I want my kids to use this in the classroom, if I want this to be an essential part, I want to train the kids on how to do it. I want to train the parents on how to do it, right? That's trickier. But with that said, I think that's something that we're looking at is how do we teach these folks, again, to mastery. And for some people, it's going to take longer. For some people, it's going to be shorter. Like I said, it's not going to be the only push. But we think that, coupled with the fact that the focused learning curve is a lot of times, a lot of extra clicks, what they'll need the most help with is creating their course pages. And honestly, if they decide to deliver online assessments and work on them in groups, that's probably the most time. And we'll have a lot of training, and we'll have an expert at every site to be able to help facilitate that. And so we're pretty excited about the training plan. On the Google piece, we're working on building something. It won't be inside of Focus, but it will be inside of the teacher portal, and we're working on mirroring the same process. However, I will say this. Once you've created an assignment and delivered it digitally, you're done. I expect the training curve for the Focus stuff to go up and then down really quick because I think people are going to come to grips with it. The Google tools have infinite numbers of possibilities, and half of us, if it was me in the classroom, I might need training on the technology piece, but the part, and this is the part we can't wait to get into, the part that I'm really going to need the training on, I think, is going to be how do I shift to this digital experience that I want the kids to have? How do I do this digitally when I've done it analog for so long, right? When I've done it old school for so long. So that training pattern will be over a longer period of time. We're very mindful because I will tell you this, the success, I think we've got something that is honestly pretty cool. If we don't train it, it won't matter. And that's the thing that we're very, very conscious of is that at this point, the geek stuff has kind of been done to some extent. We're wrapping up the last parts of sort of the technical piece. It's what happens when nobody knows how to use it. And so that part we're watching very, very closely. So you'll see some developments for the digital trailblazers of the summer. You'll start to see us have some communications. We are. I know some people won't be. That's perfectly okay. We're going to let the teachers know that the training videos will be made available to them on June 15th. That way they know. They don't have to, like I said. But some folks want to. To be honest with you, every time we show, and actually we were looking at the back channel here just a second ago, the number one question in the last 30 minutes has been, when does the training start? Which is good. It's not like, oh my God, what did y'all do? Like that. But at the same time, that's going to be the next key thing that we turn our attention to.
You all, I don't want to leave you with questions because I know back channeling brought a lot of good questions out. We'll make sure we make those public and answer them. Digital trailblazers, I'm just going to tell you this now, buckle your seatbelts because we got a lot of cool stuff going on. So let me get that video ready. Diane Cornegie.
What a great way to spend a Friday morning. So I just want to say thank you all for being here and for the role you play in truly innovating our classrooms and our schools. We know that our students are going to be the benefactors of that, and we just appreciate the role that you play in that. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank this incredible team from Information Services and the Instructional Division. This truly was a collaborative effort. This has been a long time project that really began with some innovative minds who said, let's listen to what teachers and students want and need as we move into this digital age. And how do we provide that in a format that's going to be truly engaging and to help meet the needs of both the teachers and the students. So really, these folks up here have just taken that vision and made it a reality. We couldn't do that without their work and their leadership and the leadership role that you all play as teacher leaders in our schools. So thank you, and thank you to you. This is just the beginning of truly a trail that we are blazing together in Clay County, and it's, I think, going to put us on the map even more so than we are because we know that Clay County is the place to be. So thank you all. And